Imagine living a life where fear no longer has control over you, a life where you can face any challenge with a lasting, deep sense of peace, knowing you are not alone. This peace is not temporary, nor does it fade when things become difficult. It is a true and lasting peace that flows from God, the Creator of all, and it transforms us from within. In a world filled with uncertainty, anxiety, and fear, this kind of peace might feel like a distant dream. But God promises that we can experience a peace that goes beyond our understanding. Jesus came to show us this path and to help us live without fear. Today, we want to share this message of hope with you because everyone deserves to know that God's peace is available to them, regardless of what they are facing. This message is not just for you, it is a truth that can transform countless lives. Many people are searching for answers, relief, or just a sign that they are not alone in their struggles. You may even know someone who needs to hear this promise and feel God's love in their lives. By supporting and sharing this message, you become part of something much bigger, a channel of hope for others who need it most. Each like, each subscription helps spread this message further. For you, it may be a simple action, but for someone else, it could be the lifeline that changes their day or even their life. This is the power of sharing God's word. One small action can have a huge impact. As you do this, you strengthen your own faith and become a light for others. So join us on this journey, and together, let's bring this message of peace to as many people as possible. May God bless you and fill you with the unshakable peace that only He can provide. Number 1, a peace that the world cannot give. Gospel of John, chapter 14, verse 27. Imagine finding a moment of total silence in your life, a pause to truly observe your own thoughts and emotions. It is often in these quiet spaces that fear finds its way in, taking the form of worries about the future, concerns over health, fears of failure, or even a sense of loneliness that makes us feel small and powerless. We may question whether we have the strength to handle life's challenges, or if our mistakes and insecurities will push away those we care about. Yet, amid these worries, Jesus, our guide and Savior, offers us a promise of profound peace, one that goes beyond anything the world can offer. He says, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." Gospel of John, chapter 14, verse 27. These words, spoken by Jesus so long ago, remain just as powerful and relevant today. They are an invitation to experience a peace that is independent of circumstances, one that is neither shallow nor fleeting, but rooted in a close, steady relationship with God. The peace Jesus offers is not a simple calm that fades when trials arise. Instead, it is a peace that stays within our hearts, providing a stable calm, unaffected by what's happening around us. In this promise, Jesus reveals that even though the world is full of challenges and situations that might create fear, there is a deeper and enduring peace available to us. This peace is a gift from God, a peace that reshapes our hearts and allows us to live with confidence and hope. Often we chase peace in external things. We think that if we achieve a certain level of success or reach specific goals, we'll find the calm and happiness we seek. Yet the peace offered by the world is temporary and, in the end, unfulfilling. It's based on conditions and situations that can change at any moment. But God's peace is different. It's a peace that does not rely on what we own or achieve. It's grounded in God's presence within our lives. Jesus invites us to experience this peace and to allow His love and strength to replace fear within our hearts. He reminds us that no matter what we are facing, we can trust in God's constant presence and His unwavering love. This promise of peace is like an anchor for our souls, a reminder that we are not alone and that no matter what happens, God holds us securely. Sometimes we think peace will come only when all our problems are solved, or when others around us change, or when our circumstances improve. But Jesus shows us that true peace begins within, in our relationship with God. He invites us to seek this connection with Him first, to allow His love to fill every corner of our being. As we do, we experience a peace that does not depend on outside things, but rather on the inner certainty that God loves us and cares deeply for us. This message of peace and faith in God is more than an invitation to release fear. It's a call to live with purpose. God's peace is not passive. It encourages us to act with courage and faith, trusting that He guides and protects us every step of the way. When we live in the peace that Jesus offers, our hearts are free from the weight of worry and anxiety, allowing us to live fully, to love freely, and to move forward with hope. If you find yourself facing uncertainty or fear today, remember Jesus' promise. He offers you a peace that the world cannot give, a peace that transforms and strengthens your heart. No matter the size of the challenges you face or the depth of the fear you feel, God is with you, and His peace is enough to calm any storm. Let these words from Jesus fill your heart and mind, and experience a peace that nothing and no one can take away. As you read this message, pause for a moment and consider what is currently taking away your peace. What fears or concerns are on your heart? Take a moment to bring those fears to God in prayer. Imagine God, in His power and love, taking those worries and offering His peace in their place. This peace not only brings calm, but also gives you the strength to keep going, trusting that God is in control and that His love and presence are with you each step of the way. Today, God invites you to embrace this peace. He encourages you to let go of your fears and to trust that He is enough. No matter what happens, remember that His peace is available to you, and His love is the anchor that holds you steady through every situation. You don't have to face your fears alone. God is with you, and His peace is stronger than any fear. Live in that peace, and let it be your guide in every part of your journey. Number 2, give all your worries to Him. First Epistle of Peter, chapter 5, verse 7. Have you ever felt the weight of worry so deeply that it seemed too heavy to carry? Anxiety, with its constant stream of fearful and doubtful thoughts, tries to crowd out the peace in our hearts. But God's word gives us an incredible assurance. Cast all your anxiety on Him because He cares for you. First Epistle of Peter, chapter 5, verse 7. This verse is a beautiful reminder that we are never alone or overlooked. God not only understands our fears, but also invites us to give them to Him. He calls us to place every worry, every doubt, every burden into His hands, because He cares for us deeply. This promise speaks directly to our hearts, showing us that our Heavenly Father is aware of our needs and hardships. God is not a distant being. He is close, compassionate, and ready to lift the weight of our fears. To cast all our anxiety on Him is an act of humility, faith, and trust. It doesn't mean ignoring our problems or pretending they don't exist. Instead, it means acknowledging that we weren't meant to carry everything alone. God offers His strength and love as a refuge, giving us the freedom to live without being weighed down by worry. He asks us to trust Him, to let Him guide our paths, and to lighten our burdens. So often, we try to handle everything ourselves. We believe we need to be strong, to not show vulnerability, but God never expected us to do it all on our own. He invites us to share our worries with Him and to trust that He has a plan, even when life feels chaotic. Entrusting our anxieties to Him means recognizing that He alone has the power to transform any situation, and in His love, we find the security we need. This invitation to hand our anxieties over to God is a chance to release what holds us back, to let go of living under constant worry. As we do this, we start to experience a peace that goes beyond human understanding. When we give our burdens to God, He responds with His peace and protection. Even when the world around us stirs up fear, He will always be there beside us, watching over us and sustaining us. Take a moment to think about the burdens you're carrying today, the worries that weigh on your heart. Right now, you can accept God's invitation. You don't have to bear these alone. Give your anxieties to God and let His love and care fill every part of your being. Trust that He is in control and that His boundless kindness will lead you to true peace. Sometimes we mistakenly believe we need to depend only on ourselves, that if we don't take care of everything, no one will. But God reminds us that He is our refuge and strength, and He never tires of helping us, even when we feel at our weakest. Relying on Him isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's opening our hearts to the peace and strength only He can provide. This verse calls us to live differently, to break free from the chains of worry and fear. Imagine a life where you don't have the constant weight of fear. What would you do? How would you live? God's promise makes it possible to experience a life of peace and trust, knowing that no matter what comes, we are never alone. His presence is our assurance and our peace. If you're feeling overwhelmed or fearful about a situation today, remember that God is inviting you to place those fears in His hands. He understands every worry and every burden. He invites you to trust Him, to let His peace calm your heart, and to walk forward knowing that He is with you. Through everything, He is near, offering you strength and peace. Whenever fear tries to creep in, remember the promise in the first epistle of Peter. Say with confidence, God cares for me. I will not fear. He is my strength and my help. By declaring this, you're not only reminding yourself of His love, but also allowing His peace to fill your heart and mind. His presence becomes the anchor in your life, giving you the courage and strength to keep moving forward. When we trust God as our refuge and strength, we gain the ability to live with peace, even in life's storms. We don't need all the answers or control over every detail of our future. Our security does not rely on our own strength, but on knowing that God is with us, sustaining us each day. By making Him our strength, we find that we can face uncertainty with hope, knowing He is always there to help and protect us. And as we embrace this truth, let's also share this message of God's love and strength with others. If this message has spoken to you, consider subscribing to the channel and sharing it with someone who needs to hear it. Each subscription, each share, could be the encouragement that changes another person's life. Together, let's spread this truth to more hearts, bringing a message of hope, courage, and love that has the power to transform lives. Number 3, do not be afraid, for I am with you. Book of Isaiah, chapter 41, verse 10. In life, we all experience moments that leave us feeling vulnerable and fearful. Whether it's external challenges like financial stress, health issues, the loss of a loved one, or unexpected changes, these situations can stir up fear in our hearts. Sometimes the battle happens inside us, fears that build up and make us feel isolated, incapable, or unsure of how to handle what comes next. But even in these moments, God offers us a message of comfort and strength. He speaks directly to our fears and reassures us that we are never alone. In the book of Isaiah, God says, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." Book of Isaiah, chapter 41, verse 10. This verse contains an incredibly powerful promise. No matter how difficult our circumstances or how strong our fears, God is by our side. He calls us to let go of our fear because His presence is the greatest assurance of peace and security we could ever need. God understands our natural tendency to fear things that are beyond our control. He knows that we need continual support and reminders of His unwavering love and faithfulness. In this verse, He promises not only to be with us, but also to provide strength and support for every step we take. He offers us strength when we feel weak, help when we don't know how to move forward, and unending love to sustain us no matter what we face. This promise isn't just comforting words, it's an invitation to trust in God and release our worries into His hands. It reminds us that we don't have to bear life's burdens alone, because God Himself walks beside us. His presence is what gives us the courage to confront any situation, because we are not left to face it alone. Trusting in this promise means recognizing that God is our strength and that His power can transform our fear into peace. If today you find yourself burdened or afraid because of a difficult situation, remember that God is with you. He understands what you're going through and is present with you in every moment. He invites you to place your trust in Him and let His love bring you the peace and security you're longing for. No matter how fierce the storm around you, God's arms are a place of refuge and strength. He is our support, our protector, and our comfort when life is uncertain. Each time fear tries to enter your heart, recall these words from Isaiah. Say with confidence, God is with me. I will not be afraid. He is my strength and my help. By affirming this, you not only strengthen your trust in Him, but also allow His peace and strength to fill you, freeing you from the grip of fear. His presence becomes the anchor of your life, giving you the courage and stability you need to keep moving forward. This message is also a reminder that we too can offer strength to each other. Just as we find our strength in God, we have a community of believers around us who share this journey with us. Knowing that we're not alone, even on this earth, reinforces the power of God's promise. We can support each other in times of difficulty, lifting one another up in prayer, sharing our own experiences, and reminding each other that God is near. Trusting God as our refuge and strength enables us to live in peace, even in life's most turbulent storms. We don't need to have every answer or control every situation. Our security doesn't rely on human understanding, but on the assurance that God is with us, sustaining us at every turn. By making Him our source of strength, we find that we can face uncertainty with confidence, knowing that He will guide, protect, and sustain us. Today, as you reflect on the words of Isaiah, think about the fears that may be weighing on your heart. Place them in God's hands and trust that He will guide you through. Take a moment to pray, giving those worries over to Him, and allow His presence to bring peace to your heart and mind. You don't have to carry these burdens alone. God is with you every step of the way. And as we experience this peace and strength, let's share this message with others. If this has touched you, consider subscribing to the channel and sharing it with someone who might need encouragement today. Each subscription and share is a way to spread hope, helping others to experience the strength and peace that only God can provide. Together, let's extend this message of hope, courage, and love to as many hearts as possible. Number 4, you are precious in my sight. Book of Isaiah, chapter 43, verse 4. One of the deepest fears many of us carry is the fear of not being enough. This fear can make us question our worth, our dignity, and whether we are worthy of love. We may wonder if those around us truly accept us as we are, or if God could really love us despite our imperfections. This fear, rooted in insecurity, can fill our hearts with anxiety and discouragement. But God's Word gives us a powerful message that is the opposite of these fears. In the book of Isaiah, God says, "Because you are precious in my sight and honored, and I love you." Book of Isaiah, chapter 43, verse 4. God reminds us that we are valuable to Him, not because of what we achieve or how we appear, but simply because He loves us. His love is not based on our strengths or weaknesses. It is a love that goes beyond human understanding and does not depend on circumstances. We are precious in His eyes simply because He created us and loves us with an unending love. This truth can heal the wounds in our hearts and give us the peace we long for. When we embrace this truth, fear starts to lose its hold on us. Knowing that we are unconditionally loved by God frees us from the need to seek approval from others. We no longer have to live with the anxiety of trying to earn God's love or the acceptance of those around us, because we know that our value is already secure in His love. In God's sight, we are precious and honored, and nothing we do can change that. God's invitation to accept His unconditional love challenges us to see ourselves as He sees us. Often, The fear of rejection or loneliness leads us to hide who we truly are, trying to meet the expectations of others and live with a sense of inadequacy. But as we embrace God's love, we learn that our identity does not rely on the opinions of others or our own insecurities. We become free to live authentically, to express who we are without fear. If today you are feeling weighed down by the fear of not being enough, let these words from God embrace you. You are precious in my sight. Let this truth fill your heart until it becomes a reality in your life. You are not an accident or someone without value. You are deeply loved by the one who created you and who has a unique purpose for your life. His love is the foundation on which you can build a life free from fear. As you reflect on this promise, take a moment to allow yourself to fully accept God's love. Imagine God Himself telling you, "You are precious to me." Let this message sink in, filling your heart and mind. The more we internalize His love, the more we find freedom from insecurity and the confidence to live in peace. Knowing we are loved by God gives us the courage to live without fear, trusting that His love holds us through every situation. As we journey deeper into this truth, let's help others receive this same message of love. If this reminder of God's love touched you, consider subscribing to the channel and giving this video a like. Every interaction helps this message of love reach more people who may need it, just as you did. Together, let's make God's message of love and acceptance known to those who are searching for peace and purpose. Number 5, the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Book of Psalms, chapter 27, verse 1. Fear and uncertainty often find their way into our hearts, especially when we feel that things are out of our control. It's natural to be afraid when facing the unknown or feeling that we're navigating life's challenges without a clear guide. But in these moments, the Bible gives us a powerful reminder that we don't need to walk in fear. In the book of Psalms, we find this comforting assurance. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? Book of Psalms, chapter 27, verse 1. This verse gives us a picture of what it means to have God as our source of strength and courage. When the Lord is our light, He illuminates our path, dispels darkness, and gives us clarity even when we face difficult situations. His light helps us see beyond our immediate fears, showing us that we are not walking alone. His presence in our lives brings comfort, guiding us through the uncertainty and granting us the confidence to take each step. God is not only our light, but also our salvation. This means that He is our protector, our defender, the one who saves us from anything that threatens our peace. When we recognize that God is our salvation, we find courage because our security no longer depends on our own abilities or on the circumstances around us, but on the one who holds the world in His hands. Knowing that God is our salvation gives us a solid foundation to stand on, even when life feels shaky. The psalmist also describes God as the stronghold of his life. A stronghold is a place of safety, a fortress where we are shielded from harm. God offers us this place of refuge, where we can rest and find strength, knowing that nothing can break His protection over us. In this safe place, fear loses its grip, and we experience the peace that only God can give. If today you feel overwhelmed by fear or uncertainty, take a moment to remember this promise. Allow the truth of these words to resonate in your heart. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? God's presence is your security, your guide, and your refuge. Whatever challenges or unknowns you may be facing, you don't have to walk through them alone. Trust that God's light will illuminate your path and His strength will carry you through. Reflecting on this verse can remind us to lean on God as our guide and protector. It encourages us to stop trying to navigate life's difficulties on our own and instead place our trust in Him who knows us and loves us deeply. Every time fear starts to arise, we can come back to this promise, reminding ourselves that God is with us. His light, salvation, and strength are more than enough to sustain us. God's promise to be our light and stronghold is not just a source of personal comfort. It's an invitation to live courageously. With Him by our side, we are free to move forward in life without being held back by worry or fear. This courage allows us to make choices rooted in faith rather than anxiety, to pursue the life God has planned for us, and to share His love with others around us. As you think about the fears you're holding on to, take a step of faith today and give them to God. Imagine Him guiding you through each worry, replacing fear with His peace and security. Every moment spent trusting Him is a step closer to the life He wants you to experience, a life full of peace, purpose, and joy. If this message of God's peace and strength has encouraged you, consider supporting this journey of faith by liking and subscribing to our channel. Each action you take helps spread this message to others who may need it just as much as you do. Together, let's share God's light and love with a world in need of hope and peace. Number 6. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. Book of Isaiah, chapter 43, verse 2. Fear often takes hold when we face situations that feel beyond our control. We worry about the unknown, about losses we might endure, or challenges we don't yet know how to handle. Yet in the middle of all this uncertainty, God's word brings us a promise that offers deep comfort and reassurance. In the book of Isaiah, God says, "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze." Book of Isaiah, chapter 43, verse 2. This is one of the most comforting promises in the Bible, reminding us that while we may go through difficult and intense situations, we will never go through them alone. God tells us that He will be with us as we face the waters and rivers of life's challenges, and assures us that even though the fires of trials may feel overwhelming, He is right there with us, protecting and sustaining us. His presence guarantees that nothing can destroy us because He is holding us securely. God doesn't promise a life without challenges. Instead, He assures us that He will be constantly by our side in the midst of them. This truth is important, as fear often intensifies when we feel isolated in our battles. Yet this promise shows us that God, like a loving Father, walks with us through every struggle. He invites us to trust His presence, remembering that He is faithful and will never abandon us, no matter how rough the path may seem. When we face the waters or fires of life, it's natural to feel afraid. But knowing that God is with us in these moments brings a peace that surpasses all understanding. His presence assures us that even in the most intense trials, we are not adrift. God is our anchor, our refuge, and His promise is a reminder that nothing in this life can separate us from His love and protection. This promise also gives us the courage to keep moving forward, even when the path seems unclear. We know that no matter what happens, God is with us and has the power to turn any difficult situation into an opportunity for growth and strength. Rather than allowing fear to control us, we can rely on His faithfulness and His eternal love. As you think about your own fears and challenges, remember that God is right there with you. No matter how overwhelming your situation may feel, He promises that you will not be defeated and that His presence will protect and sustain you. You can keep going with confidence, trusting that the same God who calms the storms and protects His people is by your side. Knowing that God is with us every step of the way changes how we live. When we truly understand that His presence is with us in every moment, fear loses its hold on us. We can face each challenge with a heart full of peace, knowing that the Creator of the universe is our protector and refuge. He will never leave or forsake us, and in His presence we find the peace that overcomes every fear. If this message of God's faithfulness and constant presence has encouraged you, I invite you to support this channel by liking and subscribing. Each click, each interaction helps bring this message of hope to others who also need it. Together, we can share the comfort and strength of God's promise, reaching hearts that long for the peace and assurance that only He can give. Number 7, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 31, verse 8. One of the greatest sources of peace we can find in life comes from knowing that we are never truly alone. In moments of isolation or uncertainty, God reminds us of a promise that has brought comfort to believers across generations. In the book of Deuteronomy, God says, "The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid, do not be discouraged." Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 31, verse 8. This promise offers reassurance that no matter what happens, God is always with us. He goes before us, paving the way, and stands beside us through every challenge. He does not abandon or forget us. Even when life feels overwhelming, God is present, encouraging us not to be afraid. This constant presence of God is what allows us to live courageously, to face each day without fear, knowing that He is guiding and protecting us. It's easy to feel alone when we're going through difficult times. When faced with challenges, many of us wonder if anyone truly understands what we're experiencing. But God assures us that He is near, that He knows our struggles, and that He will never turn His back on us. He is there to comfort, guide, and strengthen us, providing what we need to keep moving forward. God's promise to never leave or forsake us is a reminder of His unchanging character. He is faithful, trustworthy, and completely devoted to His people. Unlike human relationships that may shift or change, God's commitment to us is unbreakable. This gives us confidence because we know that His love and support remain constant, regardless of our circumstances. If today you feel the weight of loneliness or worry about the future, hold tightly to this promise. Remember that God is not only with you, but has gone ahead to prepare the way. He sees every challenge, knows every concern, and promises to walk beside you each step of the journey. You are not forgotten, and you are never truly alone. When we grasp this truth, it changes how we live. We are able to step out in faith, knowing that God's presence surrounds us. His promise strengthens us, allowing us to face life with courage and hope rather than fear. We learn to trust that no matter what lies ahead, God will provide us with the strength and guidance we need. As we reflect on this promise, let it serve as a source of daily encouragement. Whenever you feel alone or overwhelmed, remind yourself that God is with you. Even in the quietest and darkest moments, His love surrounds you. He will never abandon you, and His faithfulness will carry you through any storm. If this message has uplifted you, please consider supporting this channel by liking and subscribing. Every interaction helps extend this promise of God's constant presence to others who may need it today. Together, let's share the encouragement and assurance that God is with us now and always. Number 8. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened. Gospel of Matthew, chapter 11, verse 28. In our fast-paced, demanding world, we often find ourselves overwhelmed by responsibilities, worries, and burdens that seem too heavy to carry alone. The weight of these pressures can leave us feeling exhausted and weary. Yet, in the middle of this, Jesus offers us a heartfelt invitation that speaks directly to our souls. In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Gospel of Matthew, chapter 11, verse 28. This invitation is not simply a call to relax, but a promise of deep, restorative peace. Jesus is inviting us to bring every weight and every burden to Him, to find rest in His presence. He doesn't expect us to carry our struggles on our own. Instead, He wants us to come to Him with open hearts, ready to lay down the stress, worry, and exhaustion we feel. In Him, we find a refuge, a place to rest and regain strength. Jesus understands the challenges of life and knows what it's like to experience difficulty. His invitation to find rest in Him shows us that we don't have to be strong all the time. He offers to be our strength and our source of renewal, bringing a peace that refreshes us on a soul-deep level. The rest Jesus gives is not just a break from activity, but a spiritual and emotional renewal that only He can provide. When we come to Jesus with our burdens, we experience the freedom of releasing them into his hands. We no longer have to be weighed down by our struggles. Instead, we can place our trust in him, knowing that he is able to carry what we cannot. Jesus' promise of rest invites us to trust in his love and to allow him to fill our hearts with peace. If you are feeling worn out by life's pressures, remember that Jesus is offering you his rest. Take a moment to bring your burdens to him in prayer, to open your heart to his invitation. Imagine yourself placing your worries in his hands and feeling the relief as he takes them from you. In Jesus, you find rest that renews and strengthens you from within. This invitation from Jesus also teaches us that seeking his rest doesn't make us weak, it makes us wise. Trusting in him for our strength allows us to live in peace, even when challenges arise. His presence becomes our source of renewal, helping us to face each day with a heart that is calm and secure. Jesus is always ready to carry what weighs us down, to restore our souls, and to fill us with his peace. Whenever life feels overwhelming, remember Jesus' invitation, "Come to me, and I will give you rest." In him you will find the peace you've been longing for, the rest your soul needs. His love and strength are limitless, always available to support and refresh you, no matter what you face. If this message of finding rest in Jesus has brought you comfort, please consider supporting this channel by liking and subscribing. Each interaction helps spread this message of peace to others who may be seeking relief from life's burdens. Together, let's share the hope and rest that Jesus offers with a world in need. Number 9, he will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. Book of Psalms, chapter 91, verse 4. When facing life's uncertainties and challenges, it's natural to seek a sense of safety, a place where we feel protected from the trials and fears around us. In the book of Psalms, we find a beautiful image of God's protection. He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. Book of Psalms, chapter 91, verse 4. This verse paints a picture of God as a loving protector who shields us from harm. Like a bird that wraps its wings around its young, God offers us a safe place to rest, a refuge where we can feel secure and comforted. In his presence, we find a sanctuary from the worries and threats that surround us. His wings represent the strength and love that guard us against whatever might cause us fear. The promise of God's protection doesn't mean that we won't face difficulties. Life is full of challenges that may leave us feeling exposed and vulnerable. But this verse reminds us that even in those times, we are not unprotected. God is watching over us, providing a refuge we can turn to. His faithfulness is our shield, a reminder that he is steadfast, trustworthy, and always present. If today you find yourself feeling afraid or uncertain about what lies ahead, remember that God's wings are open to you. He is inviting you to seek refuge in him, to find comfort and security under his protection. In his presence, you can let go of your fears, knowing that he is watching over you with care and compassion. He is both a place of peace and a source of strength, always ready to protect and guide you. This promise encourages us to approach each day with a spirit of trust, knowing that we are not walking alone. We are surrounded by God's love and strength, shielded from harm by his unchanging faithfulness. Each step we take is covered by his protection, allowing us to face life's uncertainties with confidence and peace. As we dwell on this image of God's protective wings, let it fill our hearts with reassurance. Imagine yourself resting in the shelter of his wings, safe and secure, no matter what challenges lie before you. God's love is a constant presence, surrounding you and giving you peace. If this message of God's protective love has comforted you, consider supporting this channel by liking and subscribing. Each time you interact with this content, you help share God's message of protection and love with others who may be in need of hope. Together, let's extend the promise of God's refuge to those seeking a place of peace and safety. Number 10, be still and know that I am God. Book of Psalms, chapter 46, verse 10. In a world that seems to move faster every day, filled with constant demands and endless distractions, finding peace can feel impossible. Our minds are often racing, filled with worries about the future or anxieties over things we can't control. In these moments, God's words in the Book of Psalms are a reminder to pause and find true peace in Him. Be still and know that I am God. Book of Psalms, chapter 46, verse 10. This simple yet powerful message invites us to step away from the noise and busyness of life, to be still in His presence and to acknowledge His sovereignty. When we know that He is God, we remember that He holds everything in His hands. This awareness allows us to release our anxieties and trust in His control over every situation. God's invitation to be still is not just about stopping our activity. It's about quieting our minds and hearts, allowing His peace to settle within us. Being still before God is a way of surrendering our worries and trusting that He is at work, even when we can't see it. It is an act of faith, a reminder that His plans and His wisdom are greater than anything we could imagine. As we quiet ourselves, we open our hearts to His guidance, letting go of our need to control every outcome and allowing Him to lead us. If you find yourself overwhelmed today, take a moment to respond to this invitation. Step away from the stress and pause in God's presence. Allow yourself to be still, focusing on His love and His power. In this stillness, remember that He is God. He is bigger than any problem, stronger than any fear, and faithful through every circumstance. Rest in the knowledge that His presence surrounds you, bringing you the peace and reassurance your soul needs. God's call to be still reminds us that we don't need to have all the answers or solve every problem. Our role is to trust, to be patient, and to let God work according to His perfect timing. In the quiet moments with Him, we find strength and clarity, realizing that He is in control and that His love and wisdom will carry us through. As we embrace this stillness, let us be encouraged to carry this peace with us. In every busy day, in every stressful situation, we can return to the quiet place within us where God's presence resides. We don't need to let the chaos around us invade our hearts. Instead, we can hold on to the calm assurance that He is God and that He is always with us. If this message of finding peace in God's presence has brought you comfort, please consider supporting this channel by liking and subscribing. Each interaction helps share God's message of calm and assurance with others who may need it. Together, let's extend this promise of peace to those searching for stillness and hope in a hectic world. Number 11, for I know the plans I have for you. Book of Jeremiah, chapter 29, verse 11. In moments of doubt or uncertainty, when we wonder about our future or question if we're on the right path, it's easy to feel lost or directionless. We might worry about what lies ahead or struggle to see a purpose in our current situation. Yet in the book of Jeremiah, God speaks to us with words of hope and assurance. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Book of Jeremiah, chapter 29, verse 11. This promise reminds us that even when life feels uncertain, God has a plan for us, a plan designed not for harm, but for hope, growth, and fulfillment. His perspective is far greater than ours, and His plans reach beyond what we can see or understand. God's purpose for each of us is good, filled with the potential to bring blessings and hope even when our path feels unclear. Knowing that God has a purpose for us helps us to live each day with trust and expectation. This doesn't mean we'll never face hardships, but it does mean that even our challenges can serve a greater purpose. God promises to guide us even through difficult times, and to use each moment to shape us into who He created us to be. Each experience, each step we take is woven into a beautiful design that only He can see in full. If you are feeling uncertain about your path or worried about the future, take heart in this promise. God knows your journey and is with you in every step. He sees the full picture and has carefully crafted a purpose uniquely suited for you. Though you may not see the outcome right now, trust that God's plans are unfolding for your good and will ultimately bring hope, growth, and blessings. This assurance allows us to approach life with a renewed sense of confidence. Even in moments of doubt, we can hold on to the truth that our lives are not random or without meaning. God's plans are intentional, guiding us in ways we may not yet understand but can fully trust. Instead of worrying about the unknown, we can rest in His promise, knowing that our future is held securely in His hands. As we remember this promise, let it give us peace and courage. We don't have to have all the answers because God's wisdom far surpasses ours. When we choose to trust in His plan, we allow Him to work in our lives in ways that bring true fulfillment and joy. The more we surrender to His guidance, the more we align with the beautiful purpose He has prepared for us. If this message of hope and purpose has encouraged you, please consider supporting this channel by liking and subscribing. By sharing this message, you help bring God's assurance and peace to others who may also be seeking direction. Together, let's remind each other that we are never lost or forgotten. God's plans for us are good, and His love is always leading us forward. Number 12, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted. Book of Psalms, chapter 34, verse 18. When we experience pain, heartbreak, or loss, it's easy to feel isolated, as if no one can fully understand the depth of our sorrow. In these times, we may feel that even God is distant. But in the book of Psalms, we find a comforting promise. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Book of Psalms, chapter 34, verse 18. This verse reassures us that God is not far from our pain. He is near, walking beside us through every tear, every struggle, every moment of heartbreak. He doesn't shy away from our suffering or leave us to face it alone. Instead, He draws close, bringing comfort and healing in ways only He can. When our spirits feel broken, God is right there with us, offering His strength and compassion to help us move forward. Knowing that God is close to us in our darkest moments gives us hope that we can find healing, even if the pain feels overwhelming right now. He sees every tear we cry, understands the weight we carry, and cares deeply about what we are going through. God's presence in our pain is a reminder that while suffering is part of our human experience, it is not something we face alone. He is the gentle whisper of comfort and the steady hand that holds us together when everything feels like it's falling apart. If you are experiencing heartbreak or loss today, remember this promise. God is near to you. Let yourself lean into His love, allowing His presence to bring peace and comfort to your soul. In His closeness, you can find the strength to keep going, even when the path is difficult. Trust that as you draw near to Him, He is at work bringing healing to every part of you that feels broken. God's compassion reminds us that we don't have to hide our pain from Him. He invites us to come as we are, with all our hurt, doubts, and questions. As we do, we discover that His love is big enough to hold our brokenness, strong enough to carry our burdens, and gentle enough to bring healing. In His presence, our pain is met with understanding, and our hearts find the comfort we seek. This verse not only reassures us of God's care, but also gives us a new perspective on our journey. Rather than seeing our pain as a source of isolation, we can view it as an opportunity to experience God's closeness in a way we may not have before. Through every trial, His presence becomes a light in the darkness, a reminder that we are never truly alone. If this message of God's comfort has touched you, please consider supporting this channel by liking and subscribing. By sharing this message, you help others find hope in knowing that God is close to the brokenhearted, offering healing and love. Together, let's extend this message to those who need the assurance that even in the hardest times, God is near, offering His unending compassion. Number 13. My grace is sufficient for you. Second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 12, verse 9. In times of struggle, we may feel inadequate, wondering if we have the strength to face the challenges before us. We may think that we're not strong enough, not brave enough, or not capable enough to overcome the obstacles in our way. But God reminds us that our true strength doesn't come from our abilities, it comes from His grace. In the second letter to the Corinthians, God says, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." Second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 12, verse 9. This powerful promise reminds us that, even in our weakest moments, God's grace is more than enough. When we reach the end of our own strength, His strength becomes our source of renewal. We don't need to rely on our own abilities or feel overwhelmed by our limitations, because God's power shines through our weaknesses. He invites us to embrace our need for Him, to recognize that it is in our weakness that His strength is fully revealed. God's grace is not just a temporary relief, it is a sustaining power that strengthens us from within. His grace meets us in every challenge, giving us what we need to keep moving forward. Rather than focusing on our inadequacies, we are called to trust in God's ability to carry us through. His grace covers every gap, fills every need, and empowers us to face anything that life brings our way. If today you feel overwhelmed by a situation or uncertain of your abilities, remember this promise. God's grace is sufficient. It is enough to carry you, to strengthen you, and to renew you. Take a moment to open your heart to His grace, to allow His power to work within you. In Him, you will find the courage and resilience you need, knowing that His strength will never fail. This verse also teaches us to approach each day with humility and faith. Instead of relying solely on our own understanding, we can trust that God's grace will provide for us in every situation. By accepting our limitations, we make room for His power to work in ways we could never achieve on our own. God's grace enables us to live boldly, knowing that His support is unwavering. As we let go of the need to be perfect in our own strength, we find freedom. God doesn't require perfection. He desires our willingness to trust Him, to lean on His grace, and to allow His strength to fill our lives. His grace brings us closer to Him, reminding us that our value isn't based on our abilities, but on His unchanging love and provision. If this message about God's sustaining grace has encouraged you, please consider supporting this channel by liking and subscribing. Each interaction helps bring this message of God's grace and strength to others who may be feeling weak or discouraged. Together, let's share the assurance that through God's grace we can face any trial, knowing that His power is made perfect in our weakness. Number 14, the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 14. In life, there are times when we feel that the battles we face are too great for us. Whether they are struggles within ourselves, conflicts with others, or circumstances beyond our control, these moments can make us feel small and powerless. In the book of Exodus, we find a comforting promise that reminds us that we are not meant to fight alone. God says, "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." Book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 14. This verse is a powerful reminder that God is our defender. He fights on our behalf, protecting us and guiding us through life's battles. When we face situations that feel overwhelming, He is there, standing by our side, ready to overcome what we cannot. His strength and wisdom go beyond our understanding, and He calls us to trust Him instead of trying to handle everything ourselves. God's promise to fight for us is a call to rest in His power, to let go of our fears, and to stop relying solely on our own abilities. When we be still, we choose to surrender, allowing God to take control. This stillness doesn't mean inaction. It means releasing our anxieties and trusting in His ability to lead us through every challenge. It's a moment to remember that even when things feel out of our hands, they are never out of God's. If you are facing a battle today that feels too big for you, take heart in this promise. Know that God is with you, fighting for you. Let go of the need to control every outcome and allow Him to work on your behalf. In His presence, you can find peace, knowing that He is more than able to handle any struggle. This promise gives us the courage to let go of stress and the pressure to fix everything ourselves. When we allow God to take over, we can experience a peace that frees us from worry and reminds us that we don't have to face life's difficulties on our own. He is our protector, our shield, and our guide, working in ways we may not see but can always trust. As you meditate on this verse, picture yourself handing your battles over to God. Imagine Him taking charge, surrounding you with His power and peace. In Him you are safe, and His strength is at work in every situation. By choosing to be still and trust in His care, you open the door for His protection and guidance to lead you forward. If this message of God's protection has encouraged you, please consider supporting this channel by liking and subscribing. Every interaction helps share this message of peace and trust with others who may need to hear it today. Together, let's remind each other that we do not fight alone. God is with us, leading us and protecting us in every battle. Number 15. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you. Book of Isaiah, chapter 26, verse 3. In our busy, unpredictable world, maintaining peace in our hearts and minds can feel like an impossible task. Worries about the future, concerns over daily struggles, and endless distractions can cloud our focus and disturb our peace. Yet, in the book of Isaiah, God offers a beautiful promise of lasting peace to those who place their trust in Him. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you. Book of Isaiah, chapter 26, verse 3. This verse reminds us that true peace is found in a mind focused on God. When we keep our hearts and minds centered on Him, our trust allows us to experience a peace that goes beyond the temporary comforts the world can offer. This peace is not dependent on external circumstances, but flows from a deep trust in God's unchanging presence and love. By anchoring our thoughts in His promises, we find stability, calm, and reassurance no matter what we face. This perfect peace is a gift that God freely offers to those who choose to rely on Him. When we let go of our anxieties and place our trust in His care, He fills our minds with His peace, a peace that doesn't waver with the ups and downs of life. This kind of peace is an inner calm that sustains us, guiding us through every season with a sense of security that only He can provide. If you are struggling to find peace today, take a moment to refocus your mind on God. Give your worries to Him and let His love and faithfulness replace your fears. Picture His peace surrounding you, settling your thoughts and bringing calm to your heart. As you trust in Him, you allow His perfect peace to guard your mind, enabling you to move forward with confidence and hope. Living in God's peace doesn't mean that we won't face challenges, but it does mean that we face them with a steady heart, trusting that He is in control. Each time worry arises, we can return to this promise, reminding ourselves that God's peace is greater than any storm. With our minds fixed on Him, we are empowered to live with joy, courage, and a sense of purpose, free from the weight of anxiety. As you meditate on this promise, let it renew your spirit. God's peace is a gift that He offers freely, inviting us to experience a life free from constant worry and stress. By trusting in His love and letting go of our fears, we find a stillness that strengthens us and fills us with His hope. If this message of God's perfect peace has brought you comfort, consider supporting this channel by liking and subscribing. Each action helps to spread the message of God's peace and hope to others who may be searching for it. Together, let's share the assurance of God's peace with a world that desperately needs it, reminding everyone that true peace is found in trusting Him.